Good morning YouTube. So today I'm up here with Steve from JMS. He has just done all the suspension in this 2025 T7. So he's going to go through some detail with us in a minute about what he's done to it and what he's found and how you can improve your bikes in general. So this is the brand new 2025 T7. G'day guys, I'm here with Steve Moritz today from Joondalup Motorcycle Service, otherwise known as JMS. He's going to run us through some suspension stuff. And Steve, so good to see you again, mate.
Yeah, good to see you.
It's been a minute.
It's been a while, yeah.
Yeah, so 1998 I met Steve, and that was when we were banging bars on the motocross track. Unfortunately, I wasn't really banging bars with him because I wasn't at that point of the track where he was. So
You went well.
I was still in the same race, just at different parts of the track. But anyway, Steve's going to go through some stuff about suspension and how we can make our suspension better, more effective for us, go through some rider weights, probably break a few myths, and just get everyone on the right track of pretty much factual information, not internet hype or just real basic stuff. Keep it simple. So I'll leave the floor to you, mate, and take it from there.
All right, okay.
T7 you just brought in, mate?
Yeah, the T7 I just brought in, the customer just wanted to keep the actual cost down, but it was too soft. So I did, like most of the motocross bikes and off-road enduro bikes and stuff like that, they come from the factory a little bit on the soft side. They're kind of, Japanese test riders are anywhere from 55 to 65 kilos, but in the real world, no one's that light, basically. So I got his weight, got his how much luggage he's carrying, and from there I calculate what spring rate in the fork and the shock we need. Now, a good thing about the T7, they run a KYB setup, which is like one of the best kind of forks at the moment, and shocks, and they're quite easy to work with. And they've upgraded their suspension from a couple of years ago. The piston diameters were quite small, and they used to hydraulic on a lot of fast, high-speed stuff. But they've gone a little bit larger, and the shim stack's a lot better. So basically, what I did, I increased the spring rates, and then I gave it some more. I gave the fork some more rebound dampening, because if you increase the spring rate, it's like anything. A spring compresses, and the heavier the spring rate, it's going to want to come back. So if you don't give it some more rebound, you'll find that you'll run out of settings on the rebound side of things. That's on the forks and shock. He kind of just wanted it so if he went traveling, the spring rate was enough to hold the weight, and he could just like add clicker settings on the compression side of things. He didn't want it set up and purely just for that. He wanted to kind of be able to kind of do a bit of both on it. So that's where the spring rates and a bit of valving come into play. So that's about all I did. I still reckon the KYB stuff's really good. But at this stage, yeah, that's all it really needed.
So pretty much, given that most of us middle-aged guys are sitting around that, I don't know, anywhere between 80 to 100 or 105 kilos, most bikes are going to need heavier springs at a minimum, aren't they?
Yep.
So, and that's what you calculate through your rider weight?
Yeah, you got to calculate through the rider weight. And even things like if he does want to carry a lot of weight, to have the shock spring that little bit firmer than the fork. When it comes to motocross and off-road and enduros and stuff like that, you got to keep it balanced, but they're not carrying a lot of weight on the bike.
Right. So and you're obviously an agent for Technic over here. So you're the Western Australian agent for Technic. So basically, a lot of your product comes through them. And if it can't be sourced through them, you have other areas. Yeah, I got other areas I can get it. Sometimes I can get springs through these guys. Sometimes I can't, and you're like, it's not a case of, oh, that will do. You got to make sure the spring rate's right. Correct. Really, yeah. So speaking from experience, and this is like hats off to Steve, we did my KTM 890, and I went a bit aggressive with the front springs. I went like 0.76 weight, and I found that they were holding up too much. So I spoke to Steve, and he said, let's go back to 0.72. So that's the customer service you get from JMS. Like, Steve's here to help you. He wants you to enjoy the ride. He wants feedback. So yeah, I guess
it's not a case of just, oh, look, get your suspension in, get it done, and then see you later. Like, if there's any issue or you're not sure about anything, it's just a case of communicating with him. That's all.
So, what do you think the manufacturers could, without singling one person out in a blanket?
Yep.
What could the manufacturers do better when they, we're selling us $20,000 to $30,000 motorcycles?
Yeah.
I mean, obviously the Australian market, are we just a bigger population in general? I mean, I can't answer that question.
What, weight-wise, people?
Yeah.
What can they do? Well, they've got to, because they're turning so many bikes over, they've got to kind of like have a kind of, they say it's a setting for everyone around the world, but it's not. Like, in saying that, there is some models, some of the KTM models, you've got to basically just rip the shock out and they're no good at all. They've got like minimum adjustments. You've got some Hondas that they haven't even got compression or rebound adjustment. So if you go just putting springs in, it just ends up like a big pogo stick. So, there's some models out there, you can just put some springs and valving, and there's some models that you really need to replace the whole unit. So, yeah.
So how's the best way for someone to bring suspension to you? Like, bring the whole bike, or if they can strip the suspension out? Obviously that's going to be a faster turnaround.
Yeah, it's faster turnaround for me is if they can remove it, but I'm finding a lot of the adventure riders, they can't. They're kind of limited with what they can do and hold the bike while suspension's out. So to get like adventure bike, I need to really book it in for a day or two. Yep. So it's here.
Yep.
I don't like having bikes here too long. I just like turning them over. But the loose stuff, it's not a drama. I try to get it done within a week. So I won't book anyone in if I don't know I'm not going to get those parts.
Yep.
So I want the parts here before I get the suspension.
Yep.
So
makes sense.
Yeah.
And I guess at the end of the day, it's with adventure bikes, we're not going to get into the weeds of static sag, ride sag. That's there's heaps of YouTube stuff out there for people to learn.
There's a fair bit,
But when someone gives you their weight, is their weight with their helmet on, knee braces, boots, or whatever they're generally wearing as an adventure rider, or is their weight just them as a person?
I'm finding with the adventure riders, if they're a racing motocross or off-road, they just give me their dry weight and I'll calculate the extra. When it comes to the adventure riders, I need their dry weight, what they're basically carrying on them, if a backpack, and how much luggage they're carrying.
Yep. So luggage can be fuel, water, because that's obviously changing a lot throughout the trip. Obviously, when you're full, and when you're full, you can be carrying. That's the most dangerous time.
Yeah, and I try to educate the guys when they pick the bike up, when they are fully loaded, what to do when they're not fully loaded in regards to increasing the spring preload or adjusting the compression, like, to increase it when you're fully loaded and to back it off when you're not. Just gives a better overall ride while you're touring.
So I guess that leads into this here, which forgive me if I'm wrong, Steve, is this the X-Trig system?
Yeah,
so
WP.
It goes on your rear shock.
Yep.
And basically that's how you can adjust your preload through this, isn't it?
Yeah, you can.
Put an 8mm spanner or socket on there.
Socket, or you can get like a electric drill on the extension and do it.
Yep.
But just an 8mm, you'll be able to wind it. It does take a lot of winds to do one circle of the spring. So if I try to set them up so you can get to them, and you can get to them with either a T-bar or like a little drill with an 8mm on it.
So you can do that on any bike, can't you? You can put these on any
shock,
on just about any bike.
Yep.
Okay.
Like put it this way, the KYBs have got them standard, so that's one thing that's good.
Yeah, okay. What else can you put onto your bike? I see you've got a few things out here.
Well, you can do things like bleeders. You can get air bleeders for them. If you get the right ones, I do see a lot of people that install just cheap Chinese ones, and they leak.
What do you got here, Micro Motion Pro?
Yeah, they're pretty good.
Yep.
I've never had any dramas with those at all.
Yep.
A lot of the guys that race, I tend to not say put them on, but the touring guys, because they're on the road for long periods of time, it's good just once a day just to release the air pressure out of the fork.
So how much air pressure gets in there realistically?
It all varies. It's really weird because you might go a week without bleeding them, and you'll go to bleed them and nothing will come out, and then you'll go like 3 weeks and you'll find that one fork releases air and the other doesn't. Okay. So it's really weird.
And I guess there's a bit of a debate. Do you do that with the wheel on the ground, off the ground?
I tend to do it on the ground because what happens, it's got that weight under it.
Yep.
Bleed it, and then what happens, it starts off with a negative in the fork, which is a lot better than like increased positive.
So I did meet a rider going back a while ago, and he was telling me about, I just play with my clickers, and this guy was my weight, low 90 kilos, and I said, "God, mate, you need springs. Like, hitting your compression, making that harder does not make your spring or that fork harder." So
it doesn't, and I get it all the time.
Yep.
People go, "Oh, Steve, look, I want you to do whatever bike it is, but I'm 95 kilos, but I don't want to go stiff. I don't want that harshness out of it." And I've got to explain to them, the spring holds the whole bike and the rider up. So when you do hit a bump, you're in that really good part of the valving. So it's actually plusher than having soft springs.
Yep.
But it's just getting your head around it. And look, there's some people that haven't got the budget. So I try to set them up as much as I can within the budget as well.
So pretty much, you could, depending on what you want to spend, is what you're going to get out of your bike.
Yeah.
At the end of the day. So if you go and spend 10 grand on the fanciest Ohlins or WP cone valves, you get what you pay for.
Yeah.
But you can do mods to a bike and get, unless you're riding the Fink or you're like a Fink rider, I don't believe you need that quality of suspension anyway. Like, that's serious suspension.
Yeah, there is. The stock stuff's getting really up to scratch compared to a lot of the aftermarket products. But like I said, there is some models that have got really good standard suspension. So you don't have to do a hell of a lot to it. There is some you've got to start again and start putting 6500 kits in it. There is some forks out there have got an air on one side, dampener on the other.
Sounds like a nightmare.
Yeah, they're all going back to just a traditional spring fork, which they should have done a long time ago.
So I guess at the end of the day, it's all about oil flow, isn't it?
Yeah. It's basic hydraulics. Spring rate, correct oil weight, and valving, and that's all you really got to do. But there is some bikes out there, like I keep on saying, that you really do have to spend a bit of money on.
So, Honda Africa Twin.
Yep.
The Tiger Triumph, I think the 1200s and the 900s, they have some of this electronic suspension in it.
Yep.
How do you go working with that?
I haven't had that much of it, to be honest. I'm not going to sit here and say that I have, so I can't really comment on it. I haven't seen much of it, but yeah, it's going to start coming through. Yep. Of course, 100%.
Yep. So generally with that stuff, because the dampening's electronically controlled, a lot of that will potentially just be spring rates, won't it?
It's going to be spring rates. What I've read up about it, it's going to be spring rates, correct spring rates first, and then really it comes down to seeing what kind of dampening the setup they got inside.
Yeah, because obviously now you've got a computer talking to the bike.
Exactly, yeah.
It complicates things.
So you basically got a computer saying, "Oh, I want to stiffen it up here," and does your clickers for you on the compression and rebound. So, yeah.
All right, so I guess if you've got a bike with electronic suspension, it's they are new developments, even though they've been around a couple of years. But I guess that's something that's coming in the future.
Yeah, it is.
And that you guys and all the suspension techs around the world and Australia have to.
100%. Have to really start educating and getting knowledge on. A lot of the electronic stuff, they want you back in the dealers. So you might have to go back into the dealer because they've got the only software to work with it until it gets to a stage where there's aftermarket stuff where we can use. You're just going to have to go that way, unfortunately.
So obviously oil's got to be changed in your suspension.
Yep.
It's not given that adventure riding is not racing, but the oil still gets hot, especially in the shop.
Does.
How often would you say that you should be changing your oil? Like realistically, not every 2 or 3 months like a race bike, but what, annually, 6 months?
A lot of suspension, what they want you to do is change your shock oil every 15 hours. Well, in the real world, no one's going to do that.
No.
So just say you get the job done at the start of the year, get your forks revalved with springs, shock revalved. You probably, I always say, realistically, if it's done at the start of the year, do it at the end or before the next year.
Obviously, look at your volume of riding or trips that you've planned as well, I guess.
Yeah,
so.
And it comes down to looking after your, like the setup as well, bleeding your forks, what kind of dirt you've been riding in, little things like that. But
keeping your staunchings clean from mud and that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Because that's, once you start ripping through fork seals, it's kind of, you get a nick in them, they're pretty much
that's another thing which a lot of suspension tuners won't tell you, is that it's all and well, you got your forks and fork guards, but people don't realise as your front wheel's going around, it's picking up rocks. And what it does, the rock will pick up, hit your frame, hit the radiator, and it will bounce forward and chip the back of your fork leg. And when that happens, it puts a slight chip in it. If you can get to that with a little bit of wet and dry before it starts ripping the seal, that's quite handy as well, especially when you're away in the middle of Australia or somewhere out back, for sure.
All right. So what's this? You brought this out. What is that?
It's a bladder.
Right.
So, sits in there. It holds nitrogen.
Yep.
And that fits, like from standard. Have I got time to show you another? Can I get something for you?
Yeah, no.
All right.
Okay.
Yep.
So getting back, so this is the this is an upgrade for WP.
Yep.
This bladder assembly.
Yep.
And then what do you got here, Steve?
This is a stock one that comes on 95% of all the WP bikes. It's a plastic piston with an O-ring around the outside. So obviously as you hit a bump, the oil forces that down against the nitrogen. These tend to crack and they're so tight, they create a lot of heat through them and they don't carry too much nitrogen in them. So if you replace them with the bladder setup, it's got a better effect when the oil's pushing the nitrogen and it carries a lot more nitrogen, so it keeps it cooler, so it doesn't fade as quick.
Dissipate.
Yeah, yep.
All right. Sounds like a relatively practical thing to do.
Yeah.
And I guess for those people who are, a lot more advanced with their suspension, we're having a look before, but Steve's got like all these, I'll just spin the camera around, he's got like all these shim stacks that he does up here. So that's for more advanced sort of suspension tuning. If you kind of know what's going on, you can talk to Steve, talk to him what you want out of your riding. And obviously all this stuff up here is gets modified into your suspension. So, but as you can see, he carries a bit of gear. So he's got quite a lot of stock in the shelf, all different stuff. So if he hasn't got it,
yeah, I'll get it in.
You're pretty sure he gets it in.
Yep.
Anyway, you got a takeaway message for anyone, Steve, about suspension and moving forward, and best way to get in contact with you? Yeah,
the best way to get in contact with me is probably via Facebook, Messenger, my web page, or my email. If you go to my web page, it's got all my details on it, and it will take you directly to where you need to go. Yeah.
Steve's a man. He can get your suspension dialed. So, like I said, it's really great that you get the after service with Steve. So you just don't get suspension and punted out the door and, bounced off the seat. So
nah.
The last thing you want.
Nah. I just try to tell people, just communicate. That's all.
Yep. So contact details are, is it JMS or Junior Light Motorcycle Services for Facebook?
Junior Light Motorcycle, JMS Suspension.
Yep. So got that, guys. JMS Suspension, Facebook, through his web page. His web page is good. It's also a bio of Steve and what he's done and how he got here. So back in the day, he was a pretty high level racer in the States. So I'm sure Steve still goes all right on the bike. He's pretty fit. So.
I don't know about that.
Well, you said you were 53. I mean, you still look like you're 19, mate.
Yeah, I know. I'm not fucking feeling it, but.
All right, guys. Thanks, Steve. That was awesome.
Yeah, no dramas.
Any questions, guys, put them in the comments. I'm sure if Steve has time to browse through this video and see some comments, or I'll let him know there's a comment there for him to attend to.
Yeah.
But, yeah, let's be polite and respectful. It's just a bit of a how-to today and how you can get the best out of your bike.
Cool.
Cheers, guys. Stay safe. Like, subscribe, share.